You were born in a village in southern France. 2 days' walk from Toulouse. Your father was a blacksmith. A quiet man, not angry, just distant. In the evenings he would sit by the hearth, speaking to no one, only staring into the fire. Your mother would stand at the doorway while the bread was baking. The smoke made her eyes water, but even then she would smile. Being able to smile at small things was a skill in those days, a skill as important as survival. Your childhood passes in hunger. Since 1315, the fields have been rotting, the harvests thin, the animals weak. They call it the Great Famine, but you don't know that name. You only wonder why your stomach is always empty. When you sat down at the table, you would look at your father, he would look at you, and both of you would look at the breadbasket, dividing what little there was. That was decided not by words, but by glances in that house. It was the first language you learned. This silent language. You are 7 years old. A man comes from a neighboring village, no horse, no donkey, in quite a poor state, having walked the whole way, and collapses at your door. "I am hungry," he says. Your father lets him in. Your mother breaks off a small piece of bread for him. The man weeps. Seeing a grown man cry unsettles you. You understand in this world everything can break. Not just bread, people too. When you turn 12, you begin working beside your father. Pumping the bellows, holding the iron, lifting the hammer. The first week your arms burn so badly that sleep won't come at night. But you get used to it. A person gets used to everything. That is both their greatest strength and their greatest danger. The one important thing your father ever says to you: if you learn to do a job right, that job will feed you. At 16, you are taller than your father. Your shoulders have broadened. The same hardness has begun in your hands. In the village, there is a girl named Marie. You see her at church on Sundays. Each Sunday you look a little longer. She knows it. Sometimes she steps forward, sometimes she steps back. This game goes on for months. Finally, a conversation takes place between your father and the girl's father, and within a few months you are engaged. Life seems whole to you at that moment. You have work, you have a home, you have a future. The village is small but comprehensible. The church gives comfort. The priest speaks kind words. God knows all things. An order that has worked for centuries will work in your time as well, or so you believe. At 18, you married Marie. The wedding was modest but real. The villagers brought things. One brought a chicken, one brought wine, one brought music played on strings. That first night at home, hearing the sound of Marie's laughter, life became yours, and you felt inside yourself that everything had fallen into place. The next morning you went to work, and now you had somewhere to return to. It was a wonderful feeling. At 20, your first child came into the world, a boy. You named him Pierre. He was a small, red, screaming thing. Your hands were large, he was very small. You looked at him the way your father had looked at you. You understood that something was continuing. That silent continuation passing from generation to generation. No words, no contract. Only a glance, and in that glance, everything. By 1333, you are 22. The fields are somewhat better this year. The rains came on time, the harvests fuller. Your father is tired but healthy. Marie is expecting your second child. Life feels as though it has made an agreement with you. Don't ask for too much, don't complain too much. Work, pray, stay in the village, and perhaps it will last this long. But some agreements are one-sided. In 1337, the 100 Years' War began. At first, this seemed distant to you. France and England and war. These were matters of the great cities. But the tax collectors came to your door before long. The war had a cost, and that cost was collected door to door, village to village. The few coins your father had saved were taken. Part of Marie's jewelry was taken. Something in her face changed after that day. She didn't say so, but it changed. Years passed. Small losses accumulated into a great burden. One winter you lost your father. The cough came first, then the fever, then the weakness. You took over the blacksmithing. On the surface nothing had changed, but everything had changed. The people you were responsible for were more numerous now. Your second child, little Jean, fell ill at 2 years old. Marie did not sleep at night. She placed a cloth on the child's forehead, prayed, wept. After 3 weeks, Jean recovered. Marie sat at the doorway that morning and wept so deeply that it seemed no longer like tears, but as though every fear accumulated over years was pouring out of her. You leaned against the doorframe and watched. You said nothing. Sometimes the only thing to be said is simply being there. In the year 1347, you are 36. Pierre is 17, tall, with hands that resemble yours. He is working in the village as an apprentice. The first white threads have appeared in Marie's hair, but her eyes are still the same. In the evenings, you sit by the hearth and speak very little anymore. The years bring people together in silence. In October, the merchants came. There is an illness in the south, they say. It started at the ports, came by sea. No one knew exactly what it was. You didn't think much of it. Something was always happening in the village. Merchants always brought something with them, usually news that turned out not to be true anyway. In November, the priest announced it at the Sunday Mass. Many people in the south are dying. Whether it was God's wrath or a natural disaster, no one knew. But it was killing quickly. And it was approaching. Everyone in the village reacted differently. Some prayed more, some wanted to seal off the village, some behaved as though nothing were happening. You didn't quite know what you felt inside. You wanted to take this seriously, but thinking about the reality of death frightened you, because you were no longer a child, and you had a family depending on you. You sensed that something had changed, like the direction of the wind. You felt it, but could not see it. In December, the first case arrived. Someone from a neighboring village had come to visit relatives. They had traveled far, seemed tired, a little pale. 3 days later, a large swelling appeared in their groin. The fever was very high. 4 days after that, they were dead. The house was sealed, but the air had already changed. At the start of January, 5 people in the village fell ill. All showed the same symptoms: swelling, fever, dark patches on the skin. The priest came and prayed. The following week, 10 people. The week after that, 15. You told Marie, "Go. Take Pierre and go to the northern village." Marie did not want to leave you. For the first time, you had a real argument. In the end, you came to an agreement. Pierre would go as a safeguard. Marie would stay. This decision felt right to both of them in that moment. At the start of February, your neighbor fell ill. You went and knocked on his door. No sound came from inside. You forced the door open. The man was in bed, his eyes open but his gaze absent. You ran from there. You rubbed your hands together as though you could wash them clean. Had something passed to you? You didn't know. No one knew. You didn't know about flea bites. You didn't know about bacteria. The priest said miasma, bad air, carry fragrant herbs, hold them to your nose. Marie brewed rosemary and placed it in every corner of the house. Morning and evening she prayed to God. Sometimes you would watch her, stuffing that rosemary under the door. You wanted to say something but didn't know what. Would this protect her? You didn't know. But she was doing it, and in doing it she felt safe. Perhaps that was enough. In mid-February, a pain began in your left groin. When you woke that morning you were a little pale, but the day had to begin. You lit the bellows. There was work. A farmer's plow had broken and needed mending. By afternoon, the pain had grown more pronounced. When you came home that evening, Marie looked at your face. Just for 1 second, and she understood. She said nothing. Neither did you. Both of you knew. In this illness, the mind grows cloudy. You know this is a disease, but understanding becomes difficult. You remember that small village from your childhood, running through those muddy streets. Your mother's bread, the first days when you asked your father how to hold the iron. Then you remember Marie, that Sunday morning when you looked at her for the first time at church, just a little too long. Pierre's first cry. Small things these, but right now they seem very large. Each one like a treasure. By the 3rd day, the fever is so high you are burning from the inside. Marie is weeping but hiding it. When she comes to you, she composes her face. You notice. You always noticed. Marie had never been quite able to hide her feelings from you. On the morning of the 4th day, the swelling burst. Pus and blood began to flow. Marie cleaned it. There was no revulsion on her face, only concentration. She was doing this because there was nothing else to do. Some love is shown this way, without flinching, only staying there with courage. The fever came down a little. Perhaps it would pass. Some did. Some recovered after the swelling burst. The priest had said so. Perhaps you too would recover. The 5th day passed in silence. You slept a great deal. In a dream, you saw your father. He was standing in front of the forge, smiling. The smile in the dream was so real that you didn't want to wake up. But you woke, and Marie was still there. Her face was tired in the candlelight, but she was there. Your eyes met. You wanted to say something. You want to give thanks. For all of it. For all those years, all those silent mornings, all those evenings by the hearth. But the words won't come. Your throat is dry, your tongue heavy. You only squeeze her hand. She squeezes back. Before dawn on the 6th day, the body surrendered. After fighting so hard, to grow weary is an understandable thing. A blacksmith knows this. Even the hardest iron eventually takes its shape. Heat is patient. Time is patient. Marie sat at his bedside. When morning came, she opened the door. Cold air flooded in. In the distance, the village bell was not ringing. It was not ringing anywhere anymore. The death toll had grown so high that they had given up ringing the bell. But you no longer hear this. The plague swept through Europe from 1347 to 1353. In some regions, it took half the population. In others, 2/3. Villages emptied. Fields went untilled. Hearths went dark. See you in the next video.